Our society is intentionally being pitted against itself right now. To unravel this story, here's some facts for those who are beginning to question the very real COVID virus, why it's here, and some practical advice for those who see what will happen now and over the next few years. No matter what your beliefs are, temporarily lay down those beliefs and be skeptical to what you see. Our beliefs are nothing more than filters for reality, a coping mechanism to block out what you don't want to hear. Going in as a skeptic gives your mind permission to listen. There are 3 simple questions to ask: why, how, and what. Many of you have been seeing what's been going on for a while, and to be frank, the constant barrage of bad news is no longer beneficial to your mental health. But there's a new crop of people who've started to get an idea of what the world is, and you're frustrated and depressed because it seems like there's nothing that can be done. That is only partially true. To understand what you can do about the world slowly deteriorating in front of your very eyes, you need to be aware of the situation you are in. Why is all of this happening? All of us are in the midst of a war. This war isn't the kind we're used to with traditional rifles and bombs. This war is about information. This is a form of non-violent warfare that has an incredibly high rate of success. People can plan for what they know, but they cannot prepare for something they are unaware of. This information war is in full swing, and we are losing badly. The news you read will be different from the news your friend reads, which is different from the news their friend reads. All of us are operating on a different worldview. Because of this, it makes any sort of meaningful resistance very difficult to materialize. If no one can agree on the actual problem, it makes combating that problem very difficult, as everyone has their own different opinions over the best course of action. This is exacerbated by the global media cartel. If you have dipped your feet in that rabbit hole, you should be aware by now that the entirety of the mainstream media is just another arm of the unelected intelligence community. While this is getting worse lately, it has been this way for over 50 years.
You have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to the national news services, AP and UPI?
Well, again, I think we're getting into the kind of detail, Mr. Chairman, that I'd prefer to handle in executive session.
Literally everything you see on any mainstream media source, be it news, Netflix, billboards, magazines, YouTube videos, advertisements, or cable TV shows, are controlled and deliberately released to provoke certain reactions from you and everyone else. Virtually everything your mind is consuming. Through this, they are able to control the global conversation. Whatever the media cartel is talking about, we assume everyone else is talking about it. Through the use of repetition, the opinions they present to us we think are everyone else's opinions, or at least the majority.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 The majority of these media platforms are there for nothing more than to parrot whatever message is demanded by the biggest contributor.
Amazon has transformed its operations in response to COVID-19 to protect employees and keep packages flowing.
The company is keeping its employees safe and healthy while still delivering those packages to the company. Is that keeping its employees safe and healthy? The company is keeping its employees safe. The company is keeping its employees safe. Millions of Americans staying at home are relying on Amazon.
And that is how it works. It's like a house of mirrors, where you're seeing the same thing over and over and over again, except it's distorted.
This division of inaccurate information divides us against one another. The truth is, most of us aren't buying into it, but because the global conversation is constantly talking about the same subjects throughout different mediums, we think that is what other people's beliefs are. We get stuck in a groupthink mentality, something science many decades ago has proven to be very powerful. This has the very unfortunate effect of changing the thoughts and feelings of many people so that they fall in line with the conversation.
The subject denies the evidence of his own eyes and yields to group influence. Sometimes we go along with a group because what they say convinces us they are right. This is called informational conformity. But sometimes we conform because we are apprehensive that the group will disapprove if we are deviant. This is called normative conformity. It reveals how people will deny what they see and submit to group pressure. It allows us not only to observe conformity, but to study the conditions that increase or reduce its occurrence.
We are easily manipulated with this process. Until this global manipulative conversation from the mainstream media is silenced, all of us will continue to be operating on conflicting and false worldviews. This is just the surface of the information war that has been quietly humming along for centuries, slowly changing the world and our perceptions of it little by little, until we find ourselves in this current inverse clown world we are in today. Our universities and schooling institutions were among the first to be corrupted.
That you took your kids out of the school. I have been hearing very much the same thing from many parents.
They took 8 and 9-year-olds and made them deconstruct their racial and sexual identity to figure out whether they were an oppressor or the oppressed. 8-year-olds, right? I mean, this is really damaging. Trans education program on these 8 and 9-year-old boys. And it wasn't about support. It was about, we felt like it was more about trying to convince them, like, hey, come on over. And the boys started to get confused. Then our kindergartner was told to write a letter to the Cleveland Indians objecting to their mascot. Now, he's 6.
My kids are not ready to be told they're white supremacists.
The result being multiple generations of people growing up filled with bad information from the earliest possible age, making it harder to overcome even when they see conflicting information with their very eyes. Science has degenerated from a pursuit of data, logic, and reason to a dogmatic edifice of almost religious belief systems. Information has become more abundant, while actual education has done nothing but decline over the decades. The modern human being has no idea where their food comes from, how their laws work, and that their money is based on absolutely nothing more than faith. We live as consumers only given the requisite information to part with our dollars to whomever pulls at our emotional strings the best. We have been manipulated into long workdays specifically because it makes for a purchase-happy public. Keeping our free time scarce means people pay a lot more for conveniences, gratification, and any other relief they can buy. It keeps us watching TV and its commercials, and it keeps us from following our ambitions. We have been led into a culture that has been engineered to leave us tired, hungry for indulgence, and willing to pay a lot for conveniences and entertainment, while we're vaguely dissatisfied with our lives so that we continue wanting things that we don't have. We buy so much because it always seems like something is still missing. We have no idea what we are as a species and have been filled with nothing but bad information that comes apart at the seams once you peel back the layers and apply even a hint of scrutiny. Why don't we know all of this? Why weren't we told in the schools or the media? Because no one is ever going to educate you on how to overthrow them. This has been done on purpose over a long period of time to turn self-sustaining, healthy humans into poisoned, ignorant consumers completely dependent on the institution for their survival. The obvious endgame for this entire endeavor being perpetrated on the humans of the world is control. The